Serious. What's the worst relationship advice you've ever heard? Story 1. It doesn't matter if we don't love each other. That's not a reason to split up. I don't think it's normal for married people to kiss. That's a dating thing or just during intimacy, both said to me by my ex-husband. For context, we were both young, late 20s, and no kids, so no real impediment to splitting up if we were unhappy. We were. His priority was other people's opinions in the benefits of a dual income, which I was supposed to contribute a lot to, but somehow, without overshadowing him or getting promoted when he didn't, not our happiness. Note the ex. Story 2. Men are scared of women who have a higher salary and education than him. If you want a husband, make sure you earn less and don't go to school. Some random relative who wanted to give me his words of wisdom. According to him, women who have a higher paying job education are too stubborn and hard-headed that she won't listen to the man lolo. Answer, my dad has some sort of similar idea. He says girls should get married at 18 and not study too much because it raises their expectations and makes them hard to marry. Like, what's wrong with having standards? Being hard to marry back home just means you won't put up with abuse because you know you deserve better and you can do better. Also, this is coming from the man who married a doctor, albeit traditional and 6 years younger, but still. I'm 18 and I already have so many standards. Further education isn't going to change those. I will not be treated in any other way than that which I deserve. Story 3. Most relationship advice is terrible, to be honest. Every relationship is different, so relationship advice often doesn't help in your specific situation. Just communicate with your partner from the beginning so that y'all know each other's wants and needs. Story 4. My mom once saw a picture of me and my first boyfriend where I was hugging tight and leaning on my boyfriend. Mom said women should not do that, meaning women should not show that much affection to men. It affected me a lot. I still do hug my boyfriend tight, but feel bad whenever we hold hands or sit close to each other in front of my parents. Story 5. If a person says sorry, go back like WTF, just cause they apologize doesn't mean things go back to normal. I am talking about a person who doesn't respect boundaries and practically is gaslighting the girl to stay in a relationship after apologizing multiple times for the same mistakes. Story 6. The only way your relationship will work is if you both become intense alcoholics, spend every extra penny you have on booze, and neither of you tells the other they've had enough to drink. I kid you not, this was actual word-for-word advice my recovering alcoholic husband and I got from an aunt and uncle when we moved where we live now in John 2020, when we both refused to drink with them. Their relationship was so great because this was the basis of their relationship. They started slandering our names with false lies when we said that's not how me and my husband were going to live our marriage. We haven't talked to them or 95 of my paternal family. They got divorced the day before 2021, Thanksgiving, and now fight for custody and to make ends meet. How's your advice working out for you now? Story 7. He's only your stepson. Don't get too attached. Well, the bio mom only saw him for 1 weekend a month, didn't know his friends, never took him to the doctor, and never attended a parent-teacher conference. When he turned 18 last year, I adopted him, and we are legally the family we've always been in our hearts. Story 8. You need to start joining more clubs and groups so you can finally talk to some girls. Both parents after 1. I was 17. 2. Yes, I need more to add on to my school day despite being there for 11 hours due to cross country, winter spring track, and work on weekends. Story 9. You'll just know when you found the one. Bub, I've been looking for over 7 years, and I'm still not sure I'm looking in the right place, or era, or universe at this point. I honestly don't think there really is such a thing as the one except for movies and MacGuffins. It's more accurate to look for closest fit, if you asked me, and even that's more of a guessing game than a two-piece puzzle. It's even harder online when anyone can be anything anytime. And don't get me started on the puppy love we call high school romance. There aren't enough bones in my body to count the number of times I checked up on a crush to find they were with someone else, or asked a friend about their bieffect only to hear that they had broken up literally an hour ago. Heck, I've actually been in the same room as a breakup, not a bad breakup, although even I was a bit bummed about it. I only ever saw one couple from HS get married, and I haven't heard from them since. Most of the happy couples I've met were already out of that prison of existential dread in a fresh coat of paint. In short, love isn't something you just walk right into or know on sight, but it's not impossible to find either. For most people, I do know some outliers who just can't or actually have found their boo with no trouble. Love rarely comes early, so if you don't find your proverbial other half before you graduate school, don't cry about it. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try looking or find someone to share memories with while you're looking for that missing piece. Just be careful who you give your love, care, and memories to. They might ruin everything. I myself haven't gone through that, but I do have friends who have. And for crying out loud, if you're going to find someone, don't wait for them to come to you. Go out and socialize. Go looking for them. Don't force anything, and don't let someone force it on you, but have yourself some fun, find friends, and go places. Otherwise, you'll end up like me, alone for 7 years, with the social graces of a walrus and the joy of a sea slug, wondering how I found myself someone willing to put up with my calamitous antisocial depression cycle I call a life. Story 10. I got this advice growing up from female members of my family. The way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So I was told to be a good cook to keep my husband happy. Another one I got from my MIL, the woman should be the caretaker in the house. Like house chores, keeping the house clean and organized, etc. Casual one I kept hearing all through my 20s. If you are destined to be with someone, then that will be only with a soulmate. After I met my husband, I learned that soulmates are chosen. Destiny is decided by us to commit to a relationship and live with them through thick and thin. All advices were pathetic. Story 11. When I was struggling with my relationship with my kid's dad, I invited his mom over to talk about it. I explained how I was struggling being left to do all the housework, childcare, dog care, and also work 32 hours a week without his help because he'd get angry and aggressive that the house was getting messy. He also had hoarding issues, but let's not go there. Her advice? When I got married, I ran into the same problem until I just learned to accept that I'd be doing all the cooking and cleaning. That's what you need to do for the sake of a quiet life. No, thank you. Story 12. You're having serious relationship problems? Maybe open up your relationship. To be clear, this is not a slight to polyamory. I've just seen a lot of non-polyamorous people trying to save a relationship in flames by becoming open. 0 success rate so far. Story 13. He's mean to you because he likes you. No, he's just a jerk. Not sure if this one exactly counts, but you're just going through a phase. My mom, about asexuality when I came out to her. Don't knock it till you try it. An acquaintance talking about intimacy after I told them I'm asexual. Answer. Kinda agree with the don't knock it till you try it. But if you just don't feel intimate, then what's the point? It's like if you're allergic to bee stings and you're talking about throwing rocks at hives and someone says, don't knock it till you try it. That was a bad example. It's like, I don't know. It's just, if your heart's not in it, don't do it. Don't do anything you don't want to. Story 14. Everyone deserves a second chance. People change. The bad advice is more from the person giving advice, knowing nothing about the other person or the relationship, and less about the principle. Some people change. Sometimes it's good to give someone a second chance, but it's really terrible to say this to someone who's been mistreated or abused in a relationship. It's stupid to be nice and care for someone's feelings when it will not change them and it will hurt you. Story 15. You're the man in the relationship. Of course you're supposed to meet her demands. My mom, I love my mom, but God fudge, damn it. A person who went through as many breakups as her, most of which were her own fault, probably doesn't have the best judgment in what good relationship advice is. Ever since that advice was given to me, I just stopped giving a shoot about dating. Story 16. Don't go to bed angry. My wife would talk things out until 3 a.m. just so we wouldn't go to bed angry. It ended up not good because we just kept misunderstanding each other due to be so tired. She finally gets it is okay to go to bed angry and discuss the next day when we have had time to sleep on it, not be so angry in the moment. Save me hours of sleep in the long term. Answer, yes, I agree. It's totally fine to sleep on your anger and even healthy because you get a clear perspective on it the next day. Even when my spouse and I argue, we make a point to set it aside if it's going on a bit. We acknowledge the tension negativity, but also express our love for one another. Go to sleep in our usual fashion and revisit it in the morning. It's a great formula for us, and I wish I'd learned it much earlier and not partied too hard all that time arguing in circles with my exes for hours and hours. Story 17. When I was 22 years old, I was trying to decide between two guys, my ex-fiancé, who'd returned to town, and the person I'd met that summer who was kind, loyal, but a bit passive, less exciting company. Both handsome, hardworking, honest, both good people. My boss and mentor told me that he didn't think either of them were enough for me and that I shouldn't date either of them. I've now been married to Mr. Less Exciting for 36 years. Was he always enough for me? No. But that's not what a spouse is for, or what any other person is for, to fulfill your every need, at every waking minute. I've seen so many marriages fail from such absurd, unfair expectations, and so much love abandoned by folks with fairy tale notions like that. The older my husband and I get, the more we appreciate each other and the love we have. Story 18. I think the worst advice I've ever heard is, If you're having relationship trouble, have a baby together so you have something to love together and overcome the issue. Like A, yikes, and B, my parents tried this, resulting in my younger sister. Spoiler alert, they've been divorced about 25 years now. XD, story 19. Absolutely everything on our relationship advice. He didn't reply to your text the nanosecond you hit send. Girl, dump his jerk. You deserve better. That subreddit should be called red flags because they're all crazy meanie you shouldn't stick your male body part in. Story 20. If you both love each other, it'll be okay in the end. No, it won't. Love is not enough. And love can come and go. You have to put in a real mental and emotional effort. You need to make sacrifices. You need to choose to be there for that person, even if you are mad at them, or worse, do not really feel the love for them at the moment. Nothing feels more amazing than to love and to be loved, but a long-term relationship needs more than that. It's why I believe teamwork and actual commitment is crucial, because the honeymoon phase will end. Doesn't mean there won't be any love. On the contrary, but it takes hard work and a real commitment from both. At least this is my opinion. Story 21. Back when I was in my old high school, a kid who had a crush on me when asking the school's quote fuckboy for advice after I had rejected him multiple times. The advice was literally to stalk me to the point where I started liking him because some girls are attracted to creepy guys. I couldn't arrive at school or leave it without him following me and trapping me into corners to try and seduce me. I was terrified of the guy, and I didn't know who to talk to because his mom was a teacher at the school, so I'd end up getting in trouble if I told anyone. I ended up having to ask a guy friend of mine to practically be my personal bodyguard. He'd harass me after school asking what my friend was to me and if we were dating. COVID hit a month later, and I never went back to that school. I saw the guy a couple of months ago when I went to get vaccinated. He, of course, cried when he got his. I still wonder how TF I was so scared of him to this day. Story 22. My parents tried to get me to break up with my wife. This was in 2009, I think. She's the best thing that could have happened to me, and my life has been pretty amazing as a result. We have 2 amazing kids. Things aren't perfect, but I'm pretty blessed. Undeservedly blessed, if I'm being honest. If my life was an RPG, I put all my points in luck and have been bumbling along through life Forrest Gump. Story 23. Wives, submit to your husbands, Ephesians 5:22-33. If I knew this was bullshit instead of being indoctrinated as a child into this oppressive way of thinking, I would have left my abusive college boyfriend. Instead, I stayed with him for years because the husband is the head of the wife as Christ is the head of the church. Story 24. Save yourself for the right one. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Let's have a bunch of people with zero experience in relationships or intimacy marry each other on the spot so they can finally get to fudge just to end up having a baby and realizing that not only do they not fit together, but now they also have a child way too early and can't get out of this anymore, while the best years of their lives pass them by without waving. Outside of a couple of rare cases where the first one you get is the ideal match, everyone needs to go through a couple of shoot relationships to learn what they want and what they don't want. Story 25. Literally any advice on how to move past a partner being unfaithful while still staying in the relationship? Sorry, but no, can't move past that, and I'm convinced the people that say they do are lying to everyone, including themselves. I'm not trying to be harsh. It's just stupid to stay with someone who's unfaithful and it's not worth working it out. Plenty of fish in the sea, and in the age of social media, we have access to more people than ever before. You'll find someone else. Anyone I know who's tried to stay with someone unfaithful has just wound up more hurt. It is incredibly rare that someone cheats and never cheats again. If you allow it and try to move past it, it gets easier for them every time. The trust never comes back completely, and they never stay fully faithful. Doesn't matter how hard you try to be good enough for them or forgive them. The relationship is a goner, and you're just dragging it out and causing unnecessary pain trying to make it work. Doesn't matter how much water you give a dead fish, it's still a dead fish. Story 26. My dad told me I couldn't be friends with one of my friends anymore because she was married. He tried to tell me that married couples only have mutual friends, and because I didn't know her husband that well, I could no longer hang out with her because it wasn't appropriate. Story 27. I was in an awful, miserable relationship and finally got the courage to leave. A family member asked if I'd thought about getting pregnant before I left. I didn't want to ever see my ex ever again. Why would I want to tie myself to him for life? I'm still angry about that comment 10 years later. Story 28. I think a husband has the right to have intimacy with his whether she wants to or not. It's her job. He should be able to take it when he wants it. This was a woman who said this to me. It came up because our conversation somehow ended up about intimacy during menstruation. I said I never want to during that time, even if my partner would be fine with it. Story 29. You shouldn't avoid dating her just because of her mental illness. 3 years into the relationship, she accused the neighbor for looking at her through the wall while pretending to be smoking from his window. Guilt tripped me for not needing happy pills and tried to violation me. Well, never fudge again. Story 30. Never go to bed angry? No, seriously, go to bed. Sleep. Actually rest your exhausted brains. If it's important now, it'll be important when you wake up. Sleep deprivation coupled with an emotionally exhausting day will never leave you better off than a chance to rest and reflect on what you want out of the situation. Story 31. The whole if he can't buy your nails, hair, and still take you out whenever you want and buy everything you ask for, drop him thing I've been seeing around so often. Sometimes you can tell they're joking, but some people are dead serious when they say this. Story 32. Men can't understand, shouldn't be troubled with the feelings of women, so it's best not to discuss them. I beg to differ. I speak to my current partner about my feelings often. We both grew up a little guarded and had trouble discussing our feelings without fear of ridicule. Fast forward to now, 3 years in the healthiest relationship of both of our lives, communicating with one another even if it's just to ask for attention to help a feeling. Story 33. IDK, if I'd call it relationship advice, but recently I had a chuckle reading about all of the people that consider not having an iPhone a deal breaker while dating. Like, yeah, you're entitled to set your own standards however ridiculous they may be, but really? LOL. On another note, you could end this thread with a link to the FDS subreddit. I don't even want to give them attention at this point, though. Story 34. Relationships take work. Nope. With the right person, things should be effortless and easy. But nowadays, the leeches with all the money need the bullshit capitalist machine to keep churning, which requires a lot of people working to produce surplus value they can steal. And for that, you need the birth rate to stay as high as possible to keep the wheels turning long term. Thus, we get this notion that you should work to fix a helplessly broken relationship rather than be single. Story 35. That when someone has a big crush on you and you want to go out with them or try a relationship, you cannot because you should love them at the same level they love you, getting clingy if they are, put the same effort, even if result were already the same, and be madly crushed on them. If you don't, you are just eluding or hurting them. A 200B, WTF, I want intimacy. Love cuddles a relationship, not a dependence. Story 36. To stick it out through thick and thin. The old boomer advice of when I was your age, we didn't break up over every little thing. If something was broken, we'd fix it. Sometimes you can't fix it, especially if it is toxic. Don't feel like you have to stay if you are not truly happy. Story 37. Advice attitudes. 1. Having a baby so he'll stay with me. More likely to make him run far away. If your relationship has problems, introducing a baby will not help. 2. Marrying someone because of pregnancy. Having intimacy does not mean you should have a relationship, especially if there will now be a child coming into the picture. 3. Staying together for the kids. You think the kids don't sense one or both parents are unhappy? Divorce can be traumatic, but at least you're moving forward. 4. If you have nothing to hide, then I can check your phone. No. If you don't trust me, why are you with me? And even if I have nothing to hide, I don't think my friends would want you to see our private messages. Different to accessing a partner's phone to be able to listen to music, Google something, etc. Story 38. My partner identified as non-binary. That cool, great even. I fully supported them and did my best to make sure they knew it, but their parents are extremely transphobic and homophobic. They thought that because my partner was trans, they were also gay, which they weren't wrong, but they didn't say anything about it. Their parents was giving them a hard time and making my partner want to and/or run away. JT was a struggle to get them to stay, and I was having BG a hard time. I open up to an adult and ask, what should I do? And I was told to KOL and burn them because they are trans and gay. Story 39. People say it doesn't get better. Run. Yeah, for some things, but my partner and I had about a 3-month period where all we did was argue. We worked on it, and now years in, we don't really argue. We have small disagreements, of course. Anyone who lives together will, but it's never anything more than annoyance of someone not emptying the dishwasher. Story 40. Virtually all the bad advice you've heard is a variation on a theme of poor communication. So much trouble in both romance and friendships, and even professional relationships, can be avoided simply by learning effective communication skills. The second category of bad advice is variation on the theme of deliberate deception. X, hiding money or activity from your spouse. Story 41. Classmate just said to me, if you want girls, then invite them on a date, ask her what she does, kiss them, sure thing, but he's also the kind of guy who barely knows any English and speaks like he knows how the world works. And how TF am I going to learn anything from this advice? It does not teach me how to do it. It just says to do it. As a boy with mental issues, I have no idea how. I find it hard initiating conversations with someone else who's not from my family. Story 42. My then boyfriend and I were having communication issues, and when I voiced my concerns to a coworker of mine, her first response was, he's probably cheating on you. Go through his phone. I told her I didn't want to do that, and she said, no, you should. It's the only way to know if you can properly trust him, and kept saying things along the lines of that. I never went through his phone, but her words did get to me, and I ended up ending it a few weeks later. Story 43. My sister gives the worst advice about relationships, but the worst she ever gave me was, just assume your man can't do anything, but give him tasks to make him feel special. She then went into great detail about how she has her fiancé write the grocery list, then throws it away. This is the same girl that told me that men like a little teeth during, I feel so bad for her fiancé. Story 44. Don't tell him her. It'll only make you feel better and them feel worse. Yeah. Or you can be honest with your partner and face the consequences. Or better, not do anything you have to lie about. This one, and check his phone every chance you get, or some version of that, are horrible. Story 45. A man should work a hard job so he can spoil you. Yeah, sure. Fill your son. Definitely should keep working a hard labor job while in chronic pain and having a spine condition. Idigaff, if it pays $25 an hour, if he's in constant pain because of it, he's not going to keep working there. Story 46. For better or for worse, till passing do us part, Jave Christ. Even if your partner cheated on you or physically abused you, you have to accept and still love him until passing. Actually, that is the law of our country. There are only 2 countries wherein divorce is not applicable. First is the Vatican. Second is my country. Guess where I live? Story 47. While in a miserable relationship, you aren't miserable. You are very happy. You just don't realize how happy you are and how good you have it since he doesn't beat you. You're perfect and still in your honeymoon phase since I saw you kiss each other 10 years ago. Story 48. I have been dealing with infertility for a few years, and the medications my doctors gave me to attempt to treat it took a big blow to my intimacy drive, and I knew it was taking a toll on my husband. He understood, and he wasn't a male body part about it, but I feel it's a understandable concern. I went to my doctor and told her my concerns and expressed that I want to try something else because this is affecting my intimacy life, and I was concerned for my husband. She had the audacity to give me this advice. Imagine it's like going to work. No one wants to go, but they do it anyways because they have to. In this case, you have to, even if you don't want to. This is your job now. Story 49. Marriage is meant to be holy, not happy. This was genuine advice from my, at the time, MIL, while my marriage was actively failing and my then husband manipulating and gaslighting me. And I believed it at the time. Fudge that. Don't structure your relationships around arbitrary external standards. Story 50. That you have to let your spouse have intimacy with them whenever they want, no matter what, even if you don't want to. To keep the peace, keep them happy. This advice was given to me by my mother. I was 16 at the time. She is currently working on her 5th divorce. Story 51. Never go to bed angry or something like that. Having a fight late at night or pestering your SO into talking when they're not ready is a recipe for disaster. Sometimes people need time and space to process shoot and then come to a level-headed discussion. Story 52. You're good for him. Please just try to make it work. He only cheated because he thought you were. That's what my ex's mom told me after I had broke things off and was refusing to help pay his phone bill. Like, yeah, I might have been good for him, but the man was making me have tragic end thoughts because of the things he would say to me. And he wasn't cheating because he thought I was. He was cheating because he has an intimacy addiction and because no one is perfect for him, so he always has to have someone on the back burner. Story 53. Just walk away. You can't just walk away from someone you've tried to commit to, especially when both of you will always feel attracted to and have a good understanding of each other. She broke my fudge heart, and I wasn't sure if I could love someone else. We had so many emotional and physical connections with each other. When the time came, I was completely devastated. I was going out of my mind mentally over what she did. Just know I exhausted every possible idea I could think of, but for my own sanity, I had to force myself to let you go. It's mentally scarring, and I still think about her. If you see this, Allie, you were my treasure, but what you did was unforgivable. I'm sorry, but I'm not now. Story 54. I watched a video once where this guy was trying to teach people how to hack breakups. Basically, he said, when a girl breaks up with you, just say okay because they'll see you're not affected and then instantly want you back. I doubt that would actually work in most scenarios, and my faith in this guy was gone immediately after seeing the rest of the videos on his channel. He's one of those self-proclaimed alpha males who makes relationship videos about women despite sounding like he's never talked to one. Story 55. To treat women with respect. I spent my high school years and early 20s treating women well. Got cheated on and used. Couldn't keep a girlfriend to save my life. Started being a total Chad and treating women like garbage. Now I'm fudge drowning in it. Women are strange creatures. Story 56. I married a First Nations woman. I am a white man. The worst advice I ever got was, be very careful of their culture and practices. It could taint you. I was 20 when I got that piece of shoot from my then pastor. Caused me to be apprehensive of such a wonderful, diverse culture, and I missed out on a lot for a while. Embrace diversity. You experience so much more in life. Those who are a part of those different groups enjoy you so much more. Story 57. I knew a new girl in high whose father played football and mother was a cheerleader. She was an only child, so her father pushed to be like him, an engineer. She studied all the time. She had boyfriend and they did homework together. Her also wanted her to date a guy like him. Yeah, she said, I have boyfriend who doesn't pressure me for intimacy and is good at schoolwork. A football player ain't, her mother said. A football player will make her popular, and she can always get an abortion if she has to. She ended up break all ties with her mother. Story 58. I once saw a post that analyzed how your boyfriend squeezes toothpaste and what red flags are probably behind it. For example, if he squeezes the middle of the tube, he's probably impatient and selfish. I don't remember what they all said, but the part that fudged me up was that there was no squeeze method on there that didn't indicate a red flag. As a man, you are a piece of shoot, no matter how you squeeze the tube. Story 59. I was once told that I'd never find a man to love me because I don't want children. The same person also suggested that if you ever suspect your man's going to leave, you should stop taking birth control to trap them into staying. I'm so glad to be away from such a toxic sociopath. Story 60. My platoon sergeant told me to leave my kid's mom, a German national, and just move back to the States. This was before my first kid was born. He seriously told me I'm better off just ditching her and moving back to the U.S. and to forget about her and my kid. Story 61. Dad on a road trip, just the two of us. Son, marry a woman who loves you, cause if she's a good woman, you'll learn to love her too. Week or so later, came home from school late to hear my stepmother talking to my two older sisters. Girls, marry a man who loves you, cause if he's a good man, you'll learn to love him. Story 62. You are under no requirement to do anything for the person you get with. You can just decide to do nothing for them ever again. However, they have to stay with you no matter what. Real love means accepting somebody's worst forever unconditionally. That goes both ways, fucko. That's also justification for pulling a bait and switch on somebody. Don't get with somebody, intentionally neglect them, and then complain when they leave or don't treat you like they used to. Story 63. When everyone suddenly starts telling you to break up, even if the problem is big, give it some time, just in case things clear up. One of my friends really lost a great girl just because they jumped on the conclusion on some other friend's advice of breaking up. My friend still regrets. Story 64. Give to me by a grown man in earnest. Just the high points. Women have a small hair that's actually a nerve on the top of your female body part. If you go down on them and bite it off. Later add that one hair nerve to a soup and you will get hella horny from the soup. You will be able to have intimacy like a stallion. Said to 16, your old me knew this guy didn't know what he was talking about. Story 65. There's plenty, but much of it has already been said here. Instead, I'll contribute this. Essentially, friends noting that men always have a super high libido and giving me tips on how to change myself if I felt the intimacy was declining. Guys, just talk with your partner. I swear it's so much easier than all these mental gymnastics and centering the problem on yourself and probably your own unrelated insecurities, even if it takes time and multiple conversations. Research ways to improve your communication first, not a million other things that might not even be the issue at hand. That just builds resentment on your end in the long run anyway. Story 66. Attention! Serious tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit, message Compose to askreddit, if you have any questions or concerns. Story 67. Follow your heart. While having the feeling of love is important, it can be confused with infatuation. If you have family or friends that tell you the relation is bad or isn't going to work, take that into consideration. Try to take a step back and look at the situation. On a happier note, best advice I've gotten is, love is a choice. The feeling will come and go. If you really want to have a long-term relationship, you'll have to choose to love when things are hard. Answer, on the other hand, don't always follow family advice about relationships. My wife's family told her to break up with me because I'm no good for her, motivated by me being not religious and them being very Christian. In the end, what happened is that my wife left the church. Her own decision. I always supported her going to church, just didn't go with her. And this year we'll be married for 10 years, together for 70. Story 68. If you are not sure where the relationship is going, don't have a conversation about it with your partner. Pretend to be okay with that. The other will see that you have confidence. That confidence will make them want to stay with you. You tell them or confront them, they will leave. That is an actual advice I received from a friend when I started dating in college. She was so wrong. When I think about it, she did struggle to find a boyfriend at the time. Story 69. Any test, basically. Hollywood really pushes this perspective, but I have heard it often enough for it to qualify. X act in specific way X and watch his response Y, and then decide the future based on Y. That's batshit crazy behavior. Don't ever test your partner unless you're looking for a surefire way to break the bond of trust. Story 70. Whenever something particularly difficult is happening to you, any advice to the effect of if I were you and this situation happened to me, I would is going to be terrible advice. 1, they have no idea what they would do. Did you know what you would do before this happened? Probably not, so why would they? 2, they don't have your feelings and they don't have to live with the repercussions. If someone is going through something difficult, don't offer advice. And if they ask for advice, offer ways to help them care for themselves, not a decision they should make. If something dangerous is going on, abuse, tragic end thoughts, etc., get professional help. Story 71. A keeper is one who you do not fight with. A bad advice, which eliminate relationships or souls. You have to engage in healthy fights over things that matter to you. Counterintuitively, this makes a better bond as it adds authenticity, which is necessary for trust. You meet and realize that you share important views. As life goes on, some of what you want will conflict with what your SO wants. If either of you just give in, you add some misery to your life and expose your SO to unchecked wants, while you need each other to remain in balance. Story 72. Not sure if this counts as relationship advice, but when I was on my last cruise, 19 at the time, I was told by a random lady to get myself a vacation girl. I told her I had a girlfriend, and she told me, "What are you being loyal for? You're young, go live life." Story 73. I'd say half the time, Reddit suggests breaking up. Wife and I had an argument. What should I do? Break up. No. Married people or any couple will always fight at some point, and people want advice on how to handle it, and break up is usually not the right advice. Answer, mostly agree, but holy cow. Some of the abusive, dysfunctional things going on in people's relationships. Reddit's made me think many times, is this for real? Why are they spending their life with someone like that? The narrator may be unreliable and giving a distorted view. Maybe they're even doing that unknowingly sometimes. But if what they're saying is an accurate representation, it's stunning and heartbreaking what some people put up with. People can become acclimated to such terrible things. That reminds me, the worst relationship advice I've ever heard was someone's family members telling them to be with an abusive partner because probably no one else will want you. That advice can ruin a life and create situations like those above. Story 74. When my wife and Cheryl were dating, she was a virgin and told me she wanted to wait to have intimacy. She had some childhood trauma that made it nearly impossible for her to get intimate with someone. She didn't necessarily want to wait until marriage. She just wanted to work through some of her trauma before we had intimacy. I love her, so I respected her wishes. One of my close friends told me I should give her an ultimatum that if we didn't have intimacy, I would leave her. In his eyes, you can't love someone you aren't having intimacy with. I ignored his advice and told him he was full of shoot. I am now happily married and we have a fulfilling intimacy life. Story 75. Never go to bed angry. I think it's kind of bullshit, TBH. I personally think it's best to just take the time, sleep a little, and talk it out in the morning when you're more calm and level. Why continue arguing when both parties are worked up and nothing is getting resolved that way? Story 76. Just wait on it a while. All the bimbos will get pregnant and hitched early, and then all the rest will be amazing and yours. No, all the rest will be burned out completely from a decade of having to deal exclusively with predators and will approach you only with the thickest of emotional barriers and retreat at a moment's notice. Story 77. I was asking for advice on how I want to say the truth, but can't gather up the courage. BC, I know it'll hurt my partner. And this one NMF says, don't tell her the truth if you know she's going to get hurt. It's not a major thing, FYI. It's not cheating or something too bad. Story 78. Okay, so this was when I was about 14. My dad, the relationship expert that he is, gives me the intimacy talk while fixing my grandma's porch. He says, son, you got to be careful these days, around 1996. You never know who is fudge who. Let's say you kiss a girl. She kisses a girl. That girl kissed a guy. That guy was gay in some ways. He kissed a guy. You sucked a male body part. I don't think you want to go around sucking male body part, do you? I was terrified of to kiss a girl for a good 6 months. Story 79. There was a dude I worked with, about 40. Me and this girl about 24. Anyhow, he really liked her, so I said, why don't you ask her out? So he does. She says no. Couple years later, she's telling me how he got all weird on her afterward. Starts sweating. Yeah, what a male body part. Last time I gave advice because it was shoot. Should have just said you're too old, bud. Story 80. Make a list of qualities you want in a partner. Seen this a few times, yeah. It's good to have things you want in a partner, but don't have a detailed list. The more detailed you get, the less the chance of finding that person and the more your chance of being disappointed and unhappy. You are never going to meet a 6'2" blonde, blue-eyed air traffic controller that has a good relationship with his mom, plays sports, works out, doesn't drink but still likes to go out, doesn't smoke, drives a red Jeep, has a Pomeranian, and coaches kids hockey. Oh, and his name can't start with a J. Story 81. I was in a Christian youth group very briefly as a teenager. One of the reasons I was only there briefly was the youth pastor told a young person that her aunt can't leave her abusive husband. He said they were Christian, in a Christian marriage, and it would be a sin for her to leave. When pressed on the fact this was abusive, he doubled down and said the woman should stay with a friend and pray until the husband realized the error of his ways. Fudge bullshit. Still see the guy around town every now and then. What a piece of shoot. Story 82. It's supposed to be easy. If it's ever hard, you're doing it wrong. This was a Twitter thread going around a while ago. Granted, it should be much more good than bad. But if your expectation is that a relationship will never be hard, the first bump in the road is going to lead to a panic bail. Answer: I've posted this on here before, but I think marriage is actually really easy. Now, granted, my husband and I had a lot of advantages going into it. We were both college educated, debt-free, had stable goals, no divorces, kids, etc. Basically, none of the normal stressors of a marriage. Parenting, on the other hand, is probably the hardest thing I've done in my life. Story 83. A friend of mine married a guy in the military because he knocked her up. 2 years and 2 babies later, her husband left her for about 6 months to be with another woman and had also got himself addicted to some hard substances. Then he said he wanted my friend back. She asked my mother what to do, as she was like a second mother to her. To my utter surprise, my mother told her to stay with him, and she did. She didn't finally leave that jerk until years later. Now both of her kids have problems processing anger and rejection. Story 84. My dad always encouraged us to not go to bed angry and aim to resolve any arguments or differences before going to sleep. Even though I understand that the advice always came from a good place, I'm now of the belief that sometimes you do just need to sleep it off and revisit the discussion the next day. If you force it, you may say something to the other person that you'll regret, or you may just not have the right words to articulate your opinion because you're coming from a place of pure anger or sadness. Sometimes it's best to just revisit the issue later. Story 85. If you really love them, you are going to forgive them no matter what they did to you. This is the dumbest advice given to me, BC. It made me feel awful about myself, like, whoa, so I don't love them enough, huh? Then I'll forgive them even after intimacy harassing me. Biggest lesson I had from my teenage life? Don't ask teenagers for life advices. Story 86. Not really advice necessarily, but there was this girl at my school whose BF got her a promise ring after like a month together, and she was showing it off to my boyfriend, saying that I was mad at him for not getting me one yet. I was not. And she was basically trying to convince him to buy me a promise ring. That girl has had 3 different boyfriends since then, and I'm still with the same guy. So, story 87. I asked my friend how to get a girlfriend a few years ago when I was like 13, and he said, so what you do is buy a dress, act like a girl, and masturbate in front of a girl, then cum shot in her hair. I unfriended him after that. A few weeks later during my basketball game, my crush arrived because we good friends. He arrived and cum shot in her hair. She started such a big fight, the game stopped. Story 88. Just to go relationship advice, Ray TA, RTIFU, or any question-based Reddit and look around. He like accidentally bumped me in the shower. I barely felt it. It was clearly an accident, and he apologized right away. Whoa, 82675 red flag emoji. That man is abusive AF. You need to lawyer up and get the fudge out. He is clearly a fudge sociopath that needs therapy, and you are not safe. Story 89. Had a guy that liked me. I rejected him because he lived in another state as me, and I had never had a boyfriend before. I also only liked him as a friend. I stopped talking to him for about a year, and during that time, I told a couple of my guy friends about him. When I said that I rejected him and ghosted him, they said I was a meanie and completely ripped his heart out. I asked what I should have done, and one of them said I should have faked my feelings and dated him. I was so stupid I honestly considered taking that advice. But one of my friends who had been in a couple relationships said that what they said was the worst relationship advice she had ever heard. Story 90. Just ignore it. He'll tell you when he's ready to talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend telling me to just ignore that my boyfriend of a year and a half was cheating on me right before my eyes, and him accusing me of seeing things that's not there. Story 91. From my mother, there's no point in both of you being angry at the same time, so if your significant other is angry, be calm. I am normally a patient person and took this advice to heart. My fiance is definitely more of a hothead. This advice led to me shutting down and staying quiet when he would be having a verbal rage fit and practically begging me to communicate with him. Anytime I was angry, I ended up bottling in most of it when I would begin to rage because my fiance would also respond to my rage with his rage in turn, leading him to continue to rage while I would just kind of scowl and remain quiet. I wasn't happy, he wasn't happy, and it caused many communication problems with us. Luckily, therapy has helped us tremendously. It is also through therapy that I have found that a lot of the other advice from my mother has been less than stellar or just outright wrong. Story 92. The whole idea of the one. Nothing eliminate more relationships than this notion of whether or not they found the one. Have an argument? You start being paranoid they aren't the one. Have a small personality clash? Start being paranoid they aren't the one. Have different dreams or goals? Wonder if they are the one. Have different hobbies? Wonder if they are the one. I've seen so many relationships crumble because people are so darn quick to chalk up their partner as the wrong one as opposed to trying to work through problems like an adult. Answer. I'm going to be even more frank. You don't have to really like someone to start dating them. I put off dating in high school because I figured high school relationships don't last and didn't want to waste my time. I put off dating in college since I was genuinely happy single until I noticed my friends dating in senior year and got jealous. And after that, I was picky, turning down the few dates I had because they weren't quite my physical ideal, didn't have as good a job or education as me, didn't mesh perfectly, personality-wise, lived more than a 30-minute drive away, etc. You know where that got me? Without any meaningful relationship experience as a late 20s dude, perfect is the enemy of good. Nothing wrong with trying to get a relationship going, even if you're not super into them, so long as you're polite and frank. Story 93. I had a 3-month-old and a toddler at the time. While visiting my family's summer home on the lake, my mom's friend looks me dead in the eye and says, you know, if you don't shave your legs and put on some makeup, your husband will go find someone who will. My mother nodded and agreed. Like, what the fudge? Story 94. IDK, if it's really advice per se, but I've seen a lot of people these days say things like, she is probably cheating, so I should too. Well, first of all, why are you with that person? And why does it condone you cheating on them? Just leave them if you think they're unfaithful. Story 95. Most men cheat on their wives when they're pregnant, and if you breastfeed, you can guarantee that your husband will stray. Not the ones I know, and the women who do that are people that no self-respecting man would touch with a 10-foot pole. Oh yeah, the bimbos are just standing in line. Story 96. I've heard that cheating once a month is still 0365 0.03, meaning you're 96 loyal, which is still an A. What a douchebag. Someone else was comparing some sort of lock and key system to why men who have intimacy with a lot of women are legends, but women who have intimacy with a lot of men are whores. Their logic was that a key that can open many locks is a useful key, whereas a lock that can be opened by many keys is a bad lock. Story 97. If you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Essentially an excuse to be a jerk. Honorable mention. Fudge them, they don't deserve you. It's a great drunken night, pick me back up. But there is no self-analysis on your own role. Story 98. I forget what the advice was, but it was a comment on a Reddit thread. I remember the advice being so bad that I checked the person's posting history, found posts of him offering to give out his ex-wife's contact details, routine hangouts to anyone that would go and harass her for intimacy. Story 99. Happy wife, happy life is probably the worst I've heard. The idea that I have to make sure she is happy or I won't be is insane. That's codependency, not a relationship. Each person's happiness is their own responsibility. If he is unhappy, he needs to change something. It's not your partner's job to figure out how to make you happy, and your partner's happiness shouldn't depend on yours. Story 100. You should break up with her so you can experience college to the fullest. I heard this nonstop when I went to college. Everybody was wrong. I love college, and so did she. You don't have to fudge strangers in college to have fun. I've been with the same girl for 10 years, this upcoming August now. If I took that advice, I would have given up the love of my life. Story 101. Just get rid of them. Just move on. They're not worth it. It's such a popular opinion to sit on your haunches and let others dictate what's right or wrong with your relationships. If you've got a decent partner, and things aren't working, and you're able to effectively communicate, sometimes it really is just a matter of putting in the effort. The internet is a place where you're going to find people who've been done wrong and are still hurting for it and are resentful towards past relationships that haven't worked out. In the real world, relationships take constant effort, and you shouldn't be so quick to dismiss people over things because it's easy to walk away. Not directed at those who've actually had really awful partners, abusive relationships. I understand there is a line that ought to be drawn. Story 102. I don't know if this is advice so much as I think it's bad relationship mentality. If you tell me something, you are telling my partner too. You have to tell me I'm your partner. I don't enter a relationship and suddenly all my family and friends' secrets are void from being secret. I'm still an individual person that my loved ones can confide in without me immediately disseminating that info to a partner. Story 103. I knew that I didn't want anything serious with a guy that I was hanging out with for a little while, and I told him that very clearly from the beginning. My ex-friend, who cannot be alone, so ends up dating really horrible people, told me that I should just give him a chance. Like me knowing very clearly that we were not compatible, didn't vibe with her, just accept everything wrong so you don't have to be alone mentality. She was always making comments about trying to find me a boyfriend. Or if I spoke with a dude just in passing, she was always trying to hook me up BC. Apparently it's better to be miserable and in a relationship than being content and alone. Story 104. I was having an argument with my ex-girlfriend and told one of my buddies at work to vent. He told me I needed to be assertive in the relationship, and that may mean becoming physically violent with her. He told me she would thank me afterwards and said that women got like this, they needed to be smacked around a bit. Obviously did not take his advice, and I stopped considering him a friend.